How can the heir to a Yakuza family be so stupid? Raul is the definition of a full-time below-average buffoon who makes a promise to marry a girl when he was a kid, and somehow, the fool can't even tell which girl it is exactly. So this colossal idiot starts dating anything he sees in a skirt and even ends up in an arranged marriage. We see two kids playing around, but it's still monocolored. They share an amulet and say they will one day grow up and be together. Then it transits to a guy cooking, like he's in a competition with Sanji of One Piece. He finishes up and removes his apron like a chef, like he's at it for all my life. He calls out to the gang who are outside and they all greet him as their boss. They eat their breakfast and tell him he'll make a great gang leader, but he tells them that his pretty face can't be found in no gang show. He's preparing to graduate from the best college, get a simple paying job, and live the simplest life the world can offer. He prepares himself for school, but before he leaves, his father tells him he's got something as serious as the world coming to an end for them to discuss. A few gang members take him to school, and as annoying as that was, already, they scream at the top of their voices wishing him a wonderful day. They inform him of the great going around for a while and tell him to take care. He was holding an amulet and swinging it like a jolly little fellow, and his day that was going just as smooth as my pickup lines, a lady running like she's being chased by cheetahs, suddenly starts tumbling and magnificently uses that to jump over a fence, and I've seen the next Olympic candidate for Japan. She ruined the little man's day as she did not stick her landing on the floor but stuck her landing right on his face with her knee. Forgive my manners, the gentleman's name is Raku Ichijo. We're yet to know the name of the athletic monkey who just shale-in-kneed our fine young man. She immediately apologized in the split of a second, and in the other half of a second, she bolted away at the speed of light. He gets to class, and his sorrows are washed away as a cutie puts a bandage on his face. He goes on his day thinking about how the lovely darling Onodera spoke to him so lovingly. Just as his day was about to continue the positive energy, it's all flushed away as the lady who kneed him in the face walks in as the new student in their class. They quickly recognize themselves after she introduced herself as Kirasaki Chitoge. He calls her a female barbarian and demands she apologize for bumping into him. They have a little spat in front of the whole class and she ends sucker punching him. Later he realized that his amulet is gone and he quickly lets her know that her acrobatics have resulted him in losing his amulet. During the search though, which the Chinese monkey did not want to participate in, she walked by Raku and he felt like he knows a similar human that smells that way, but he couldn't quite pick it. The barbarian kept on bickering about how useless it was, and this made him lose it, and he sends her away. Later she sends Onodera, please let's call her Dira. Onodera doesn't sound like a name for a cutie, we can call the acrobatic gorilla Cheeto. Cheeto sends Dira to tell Raku to come and meet her at a spot. The ape woman stands her and short puts the amulets right into Raku's face. Dira was there, I think, or Dira and I are thinking that she's the girl that Raku made the promise to come back together when they grow up, but this liverless girl couldn't speak up. He got home, and he went straight for the world-ending serious talk. His father tells him there's gonna be an all-out gang war unless he dates the daughter of the rival gang. When she arrived, it was none other than the spider monkey, Cheeto. Just as the two young misfits were trying to understand the gravity of the situation, Cheeto's gang members show up like Mashley from Magic and Muscle, breaking down walls and doors that are on their way. They declare that they're here to save their little princess from the hands of these frogs. Just when things were about to get hot and bloody, the two gang leaders quickly announce that Raku and Cheeto, who cannot stand the whiff of each other, are deeply in love, and did I tell you that one way or another, it's a 3-year-long relationship. And just for name purposes, Cheeto is from the Beehive gang, and Raku is from the Yakuza gang. These two monkeys start to deny the relationship, and the two gangs flare up for the sniff of deception. Their rage could burn out a planet, and the two mice stood there and finally decided to work together. They okay off the relationship and take their necks home intact. They have a little free time to themselves and they sit outside, discussing how they're going to make this lie work. For a moment shorter than my ex's nerves, they have a genuine conversation and they return back to their usual spat in less than a second. The next morning, before Raku could finish yawning, he gets a caller at his door and it's Cheeto with her goons, and it's time for a fake date. Cheeto tried to talk out of it, but her head henchman, I haven't gotten the ninja's name, but when I do, I'll let you know. He dragged her to the date and well, let's say the day goes on that way. Both sides of the date have been locked away in their mansions all their life, so it's officially a first date on both sides. Cheeto freaks out and claims that Raku is the one who should take the lead. Raku racks his brain and remembers that he always dreams of going on dates with Dira. He picks out all the plans he had made in his head for Dira and takes this chimpanzee to them. They get to the cafe and she tells the whole management and workers. Same thing at an eatery, and when they get to a cinema, they argue about what movie to watch, and when they pick one, the girl sleeps off. The date is finally almost rounding up. Cheeto sends Raku to go get her a soda. He storms off like an angry toddler who just learned how to walk. Some guys crowd he and try to get nasty with her. They keep teasing her, and her anger keeps on increasing. She unleashed the tame tiger within her, but Raku came just in time to drag her away. He claims those douchebags were not worth restraint. She goes to the ladies and overhears her crew saying that something is off somewhere about this relationship, and they'll soon find out. She makes up her mind to put in more effort, but when she gets back, she sees Dira with Raku. They quickly announce that they're dating. Cheeto gives them some time, and Raku tries to explain to Dira, but she feels that they're dating, and he is too embarrassed to say so. He heads back to his date, and he brought along for her a bag of food as an apology for making her be on her own, whilst he talks to Dira. Apparently, the dreams he's been having are the scenes shown in white and black, and they're memories of when he met the girl of his dreams that he's been waiting for before he was entangled with this gym rat. He wakes up and says it's been a long time since he had this wonderful dream. Now he's awake to the reality of dating that gorilla. While he cooks, he thinks about the dream and how Dira turned out not to be the girl of his dreams because he asked her out on the day of his date with Cheeto and she denies, even though she's the one. He heads to school and sees Cheeto, who looks like she's been sucked by a vampire. She said after the date, she had an all-out paparazzi and vigorous questioning when she got home. Seems like he went through the same thing too. They get to school thinking it's the only place they can be themselves, but lo and behold, the whole class already knows. Even the teacher is fine with it. Raku was about to clear the air and call it all a misunderstanding, but then he felt the bloodlust of Beehive head goon, who's watching them from a beach or a tree just waiting for them to casually slip. They confess that they're not just together, they're deeply in love. More like deeply in lies. All day, the ninja who's been waiting for a classic slip-up spied on them, and because of that, Raku didn't get any time to clear up the misunderstanding with Dira. Cheeto tells him she's got things to do and moves away, and just as he was wondering what he's gonna do, Dira shows up and says she's about to leave too. He tried to clear the air, but then questions struck him, and he reverted back to them being totally in love. He says there's nothing good about him, but she counters and says he's a great guy and lists his qualities. While listing his qualities, he was lost in her feminine wiles as she was moving her hip and other parts of her body. I confess I didn't hear a single thing. I only admired her curves and all. Someone bumped into her, and the key to the amulet fell, and gasp! She quickly picked up the key and said it was for her locket. She zoomed off at light speed. The next day, the acting continues with 4 eyes spying on them with his reeking bloodlust. Later that day, they thought of how to get rid of 4 eyes, and I caught his name, Claude. She informs him that there is going to be a meeting or something along the lines of that. He should keep his mind sharp. He begins to yap about telling someone the truth, but she is utterly disgusted with the sound of it and tells him to go home without her. He meets up with his best friend, who sweet-mouths Raku into telling him everything. His best friend points out the fact that he had a best friend, but who does Cheeto have? He went to the teacher to ask for Dira, but she already left. He overheard some girls discussing how Cheeto doesn't speak to them at all. He looks for his girlfriend around the school and sees her in a classroom taking notes about conversations to hold with the girls around her. She is flushed with embarrassment when she finds out that he overheard everything. But he tells her that he's been in that situation and gives her info about some of the other girls. She blushed as red as pepper and accepted his help. They began to argue about their fake relationship, and Dira overheard them and wondered what this facade of a relationship is all about. The forced couple were walking together, and some girls came around and started a conversation with Cheeto, who hesitates for a moment but begins to converse with them. Raku is just happy that their notebook lessons are paying off. The two couples have a little chit-chat while they water the flowers. Cheeto has been making great progress and loves her progress because now she gets to hang out with the girls and go to karaoke and all that stuff. Raku was just there listening, and for a second, he was looking at her and admiring how cute she is now that she smiles a little bit more often. Ruri and Dara watch them from the top floor and comment on how lovey-doves they are, not knowing that they've got no choice but to be together or an all-out war breaks out. Ruri tells Dira that he knows that she and Raku have been secretly crushing on each other, and it's annoying her that Dira is now a bystander. She says there's no law that says she can't go after him just because he's someone else. She says she'll make an opening and goes straight to Raku and tells him they'd hold a study session at his place. They arrive at the house and Raku was tense like he was about to take his first injection in life. On the other hand, Cheeto was so excited and ran around Raku just to calm her excitement. Raku and Dara lock eyes for a second, but she immediately looks away. And this makes Raku wonder, When they get to his room, Raku and Dira touch hands and they react like they just touched electricity. While everyone was studying, Dira says she doesn't understand a question, and Ruri quickly diverted her to Raku to help her solve the question. Raku's heart is beating faster than the drums of liberation, and he's unable to concentrate. Cheeto tries to butt in, but he tells her to back off. She shows him that she's done, and he wonders how a gorilla like her would have a functional brain. She quickly kicks Raku out of the way and begins to show Dira the ropes. The gorilla begins to ask questions about Dira's private life and mistakenly says she can't wait to experience true love. She remembers her dilemma, and the two fake couples fix the situation as fast as possible. The other guy in their midst, Shu, tries to break the peace by asking how far they've gone. Raku is not having any of it. He pulls the guy out and explains everything to him. Now that he understands, he tells Raku that he's got a chance with Dira because she's crushing on him. With this newfound information, Raku's world is thrown off balance. Before you know it, the Yakuzas cook up a devious plan to give the couples some alone time. They lock them up in a storage room. Cheeto is scared of the dark, so she clings on to Raku. She suggests that he climb up the ladder and go find help, but he refuses, saying he couldn't let a scaredy cat like her stay alone. They discuss, and she tries to get up. She trips and falls on him in a compromising position. If they had 2 more minutes together, they would have kissed, but Claude the Sparrow comes and ruins everything. Dira also saw them in that compromising position, and she excuses herself as fast as Quickly Silver. Raku gets a drink out of the vending machine. He thinks about how the home study session went and how he didn't get a chance to finish 2 sentences for Dira. He remembers up to when he almost kissed the gorilla and gets flushed. And this reminds me of an anime where a guy fell in love and actually kissed a gorilla. The name of the anime is Fruit of Evolution. Raku gets to the front of the class and eavesdrops on Ruri and Dira talking about how they want to snatch him from his fake relationship, but he doesn't hear anything because he's too far. Ruri, who's a Four Eyes girl, just like Claude, the Four Eyes thinks that the relationship between Cheeto and Raku is fake and is onto them to find out as she invites Raku to swim with Cheeto too. When Cheeto gets there, he wonders why Ruri had invited him too, but she says she has a special job for him. When the moron sees Dira in a swimsuit, he stares at her lustfully, and Cheeto beats him back to reality from the nonsense he was thinking. Raku and Cheeto ate to teach Dira how to swim before the next group meeting. They begin to teach her, and oh my god, look at the plot amour all over Cheeto's milk jugs. Let's all rise and give a round of applause to whoever made this subtitle split in 2, giving these wonderful milk jugs the center of attraction at 7 minutes and 30 seconds. Thou shalt make heaven. They teach her little by little, but Cheeto is just showing off by swimming like a fish. Dira didn't learn to swim like a fish, but she at least uses a float. When they finish today's training session, they sit together on the floor, but soon after catching her breath, Dira says she wants to go get them drinks. Raku sees a one-time opportunity to check out the amulet. He sees a key hanging just beside Dira's towel. He quickly picks up his amulets and takes the keys to try it. The girls came in and beat the daylight out of him for doing something so dramatically perverted. Dira speaks on his behalf, and they let him go. The next day they arrive. Dira interrupts Raku and Cheeto's conversations. Cheeto just stands by, jealous of how sweet Raku talks to Dira. They start yelling, and Ruri just stands back and evaluates their love story. The swim starts. The girl began to drown, and no, it's not Dira. It was Cheeto. Her legs cramped, and now she's drowning. Without splitting a thought, the Yakuza heir dive in and saved her. She needs CPR, and he delays. But when he was about to give her CPR, she wakes up and smacks the shit out of him. No one is more confused about the relationship between those two than Ruri, who's trying to uncover the truth. Raku and a friend were casually talking, and the friend started spitting fire without thinking. He was measuring up Cheeto, who overheard him from behind as he was talking about her backside and her massive milk jugs. She kicked both of them into the water. The Lagos sit together to have lunch, and Cheeto opens up her lunchbox that looks like a 3-square meal. Ruri and Dira's minds are blown away, and they ask what her family does, but she quickly dismisses the airship and says her bean sprout of a boyfriend tried to drown her. They explain to her that immediately it felt like she was drowning. He sprouted into action without thinking twice, and she needs to apologize for being rude and thank him for saving her life. She decides to give it a try and goes to her bean sprout bit. The gorilla doesn't use actual words, and he misreads her thinking that she's talking about yesterday when someone called her fat and she kicked their behinds into the water. But he says she doesn't have to worry that he never likes to talk about that stuff. He then tried to encourage her to tone down her carnivorous meat eating to cut down her stomach, but in return she took one good look at his disgusting face and slapped him. She tried again to apologize another time, and she straight up asked him what his favorite meal is. She wants to give it to him as an apology, but she directly says that. She just shrugged off the question and handed him a beanbag. He mentions that he prefers another kind of beans, and the gorilla kicked him like a ball, aiming to tear the net. She takes another try, and this time the words actually stumble out of her mouth that she wants to discuss about the incident of her drowning. She compliments him for being bold and manly, but he confesses that he was shaking in his bones because at some point he thought the gorilla had passed on to monkey heaven. It was the first time she ever needed help while swimming, and she noted that it made her happy that he jumped into the rescue like a blue ranger. This is the first time he ever felt her act like a girl. It's like a blow to his chest. He tells her that he almost gave her a CPR, and she immediately freaks out and punches him. Again, for the third freaking time today. She reports back to her gods Ruri and Dira to complain about her inability to keep up with that monkey. Ruri can't take the up and down behavior and decides to finally ask the question if they're really dating. Cheeto remembers when Raku was yapping about being able to tell a friend who could hold the secret. So, yep, she blabbed. Ruri asked what would happen if a girl suddenly popped up and said she likes Raku. Cheeto wouldn't waste a breath to give him away, she said. She told them to keep the secret and took her bag and left. 1.3 seconds after Cheeto left, Ruri ambushed Dira with the question of what she's gonna do now that she knows the truth. Dira's head overloads just thinking about what she should say. Raku, on the other hand, who has been on the receiving end of 3 hits, was just walking by on his own. Again, this time he's wondering why women are the most complex organisms in the multiverse and what in God's name is his dream girl out there doing. Someone hits him, and I think he's about to lose the amulet for a second time. He gets to where Cheeto is, and she scolds him for coming late. He figured out she was trying to thank him, but she denied and asked why he saved her, even though he hates her. He bunks the idea of hating her and said his body just moved into action and saved her. He was expecting her to hit him for saying something cheesy, but she left him dry this time. Instead, she muttered somethings and said she was heading home. She finds the amulet on the floor and takes it with her. Ruri and Dira were having a moment, but immediately Raku entered the classroom. Ruri sprinted out like a level 5 criminal on the run. This gives these two virgins time. Dira's face goes red and Raku thinks she's sick and tries to take her to the hospital, but she stops him and starts to confess. Just as she was about to get the important word out of her mouth, a baseball came flying to the class, and that's how that beautiful moment died. That little gorilla was admiring the amulet and talking to herself until she finally decided to return it. When she got to the Yakuza mansion, everyone was already turning the house upside down looking for it. In a moment of truth while she returned, she mentioned that she also had a promise with someone when she was younger. There's a new student in class, Tsugumi. He's got the same hair color as our protagonist, but that's not the problem. Immediately, he sets his eyes on Cheeto. He calls her his lady and runs right into her for a hug. She pulls out of it, but not after the whole class has gasped away in shock. Apparently, 4 eyes Claude sent him. Their acting game inherited a reason to be upstanding and award-winning. Gumi asked Cheeto to show him her boyfriend, and she quickly dragged the monkey and introduced him. She's been friends with the gorilla since childhood, but what's going on in Raku's mind is that fact that Cheeto never mentioned that she had a friend or a boyfriend, but now it totally shows that she has someone she's close to. Break time, and Gumi tries to feed his lady right in front of her boyfriend's eyes. Shu comes and teases Raku that he's got a formidable partner, but it's just like watching the normal routine of him and her arguing all day. Gumi mentioned that they've even bathed together and gasp. I'm the one gasping 'cause damn, I haven't even gone that far. Immediately, she left for the bathroom. Gumi took Raku to the roof to question him. He just wants to ask if he loves Cheeto. He asked if he could die for her. And as soon as Raku answered yes, this guy literally pulled out a gun and moved his way as slick as Batman towards Raku and pointed the gun right under his chin. He wonders why his lady would fall for a simpleton who couldn't harm a housefly. He doesn't kill Raku anyways. He feels a spineless fly like Raku could do no harm. Raku knows he can't lose her, or it'll be an all-out war. So he stands up to Gumi and says he should get his filthy, muddy hands off his girlfriend. Cheeto was somewhere eavesdropping. She steps out to stop the shenanigan, but Gumi steps her aside saying he can't just accept this fly to be her boyfriend. He challenged Raku to a battle. Till the death. He storms off and Cheeto gives Raku full detail about how Gumi is a full-time hitman, and one time, he single-handedly annihilated a whole clan just because they were hitting on her. Everyone in school actually showed up to watch the fight, and Shu, the opportunist, placed bets on this fight. A coin is flipped, and once the coin touches the ground, the duel will begin, and boom. Gunk pulls out guns like he's in an OP and begins shooting here and there at Raku, of course. Raku runs at the speed of light, but hey, the fight is on. They keep running and talking about how he's unable to protect her. but Raku leverages on the fact that he knows more about her than he ever will. Raku calls him unmanly, and he did this just to make him even angrier. Raku ultimately wins the challenge by jumping into the pool. He dragged Gumi out and dragged him all the way to the men's room to change him up. As soon as he pulled out his pants and moved on to remove the shirt, he woke up, and WTF, Gumi is a girl. The others gather around to know what's up, and they both hide in a locker. Gumi is a girl. I'm still shocked. While they were in the locker, she tells him that she's an orphan trained to protest her lady. She left her feminine wiles behind, but Raku tells her she's still got them, and she's pretty much very cute. She blushed, and he began to run some nasty thoughts through his mind. He made some noise, and Cheeto heard the locker move and opened it. She kicked his flat behind. The next day, Gumi is properly introduced to the whole class as a proper lady. Early in the morning, Gumi undergoes serious training with her eyes closed. She's piecing together a Glock and does it in nothing but 6 seconds. Claude tells her she's still as sharp as the edge of an assassin's blade and tells her that if he notices or gets a wife, that Cheeto and Raku are not really together. Though deep inside of him, he's beginning to have the hots for Raku. God damn it. I'm confusing Gumi for a he. Anyways, even though Gumi has acknowledged Raku, she's still quite weary of him and still acts all shady around him. The whole girls in the class swarm her cause. She's still dressing like a guy, and the guys cannot believe such a beaut is acting more manlier than them. Later that day, Cheeto and Raku were supposed to go to the market, but Cheeto was babaying about it and didn't want to be dragged all the way to the market. Gumi, who was eavesdropping in the bush, shows herself and says she'll go on behalf of Cheeto. As they were about to leave, Cheeto made her put on the cutest dress and a nice heel to go along with it. Gumi is mortified and is gravely embarrassed by the dress, but Raku tells her that she's as pretty as the stars. They arrived at a pet store, and Gumi was admiring a white fluffy dog. After getting what they needed, they were heading back. The heel was just too much for Gumi, so Raku carried her on his back. While on his back, she felt so warm and cozy. And actually, why do ladies piggyback rides? When you had a girl, she'd make me carry her places. At first I thought it was laziness, but the being used to find it intimate. They share a heartfelt moment, and Raku tells her that one day, she'll find someone to love her just the same way she's been pouring her love on Cheeto. Next day, Gumi undergoes the same morning gun training, but this time, she loses focus and just grows the pieces to the ground. Claude asked what's up, but she said everything is fine, and she hasn't got anything useful enough to waste Raku's life. She goes to school that day and tells Cheeto that she has a rare case of flustering when she's with someone. His face goes red and her heart begins to beat like a drum festival. The gorilla says Gumi is sick, so dense. She goes around asking a few other people like Shu, who can already tell that she's having the hits for Raku, a few other people in between like her master Claude, who's very unfamiliar with this rare disease, and then Ruri and Dira, who also confirms that her rare condition is love. She goes back to Cheeto, who now confirms that it's love, but just to be sure, Cheeto asks her to say out the symptoms again. And this wandering cow, cause I wonder why he's always wandering about, hears the symptoms and just says that it's love. Cheeto went home that day with her memory refreshed that she had a love when she was young. She stumbled upon a diary and read through, but at the end, she didn't write everything in the diary and was frustrated. She picks up the diary, and a key fell from it. Just then, she heard a noise by her window, and it was Gumi, hanging on a rope like a low-cost female Spider-Man. Cheeto tells her that she found a diary about her first love and all. I think this would be a wonderful time to note the fact that the key with Dira has a cross on it, while the key that Cheeto just found has a half moon on it. However, Gumi informs her that the next day actually is a school trip. Cheeto, who was barely paying attention in class, has no group of her own, but guess what age has? A boyfriend. Shu had all the time to come up with a devious and vicious plan for all of them to be in the same group and also sit at the back of the bus. At the back of the bus, a usual 4-seater, but by some miracle, and in accordance to this order, Ruri, Dira, Raku, Cheeto, and Gumi sat on the back seat of the bus, and it was extremely tight. Ruri used this opportunity to make sure Raku felt enough of Dira's body by pushing her onto him, and what the bus swaying from left to right. They get there, and Shu wastes no time in putting forth his nasty thoughts of them sharing a room with the ladies with only a sliding door separating them. That's when it hit this monkey like a meteor that he's gonna be sharing a room with his dream girl, Dira. Shu quickly brings up a game to rival Devil's Basket, but Ruri punched the game down to neatness with every suggestion G made until it was about first love. The game went on and on till it was just the two couples. When it was about to strike a winner, the teacher barged in and called them for dinner. It was time for the hot spring, and everyone was getting ready, except Raku, who was told he had a call on the line, but when he got there was none. It's actually Claude's doing, trying to disrupt the peace of this class. Hang out. He fools Raku into going into the women's bath area by changing the cover sheets at the door. He plans to ruin Raku's social life by making him a peeping Tom. But graciously for peeping Tom, it was his supposed girlfriend that came in first. When they saw, she quickly realized that it was Claude's doing. Raku gets up to leave, but the other girls walk in and start teasing themselves. When he tries to escape to the authorized personnel room, the teachers flood out of there with some other girls too. He's stuck in the water. He was almost caught as some ladies cornered Cheeto with questions, but she used Gumi's love life to distract them. Raku notices a hole that could possibly lead him to the men's bath, and he proceeds to use it. It's only in anime that someone underwater would hear someone's speech from the surface. Dira moved and blocked his bath, but Cheeto dragged her away. Raku made it to the men's bath and was immediately relieved. He met up with Cheeto, who worried if he saw her full glory, but he said he didn't, and he apologized for putting her through such stress. Next morning, everyone heads out for breakfast, like two rivals, which they originally are, but by some sheer luck, they're lovers. Raku and Cheeto cross paths, and she behaves like she's got a pin up her behind and walks away. But truthfully, she couldn't stand the presence of him because her heart was thrusting like a wind turbine. Shu, the top schemer, comes and teases him. He also brings up the grant event that's happening later in the day. It's not about the lottery. This virgin Shu is more concerned about the compulsory holding of hands that's gonna happen. He also wants to scheme Raku's way into teaming up with Dira. On the other hand, Ruri is also scheming the same thing, but here feels more like a threat while Shu is collecting money to make it happen. Dira sees Raku and calls out to him, but he runs away because the only thing he can seem to remember is her in her full glory that he had a glimpse of last night. The night comes, and it's time for the big event. Raku feels sorry for whoever is stuck up with his gorilla girlfriend. Time for picking partners comes, and the ladies go first. This gives Ruri the opportunity to scream out Dira's numbers. In the end, the gorilla ends up with Shu, Gumi ends up with Ruri, and Raku ends up with Dira, but he's still not over all the glorious sight he saw last night, so he averts his eyes from her. She asked him if he was avoiding her or something. He says spending a night with the girls has made him a lot more nervous than Spider-Man taking the leap of faith. Cheeto sees them from afar, and her jelly beans are higher than my sister's sugar level. She runs into a few Dr. Frankenstein-looking dress-up monsters with a wolf, and they say they need help. They end up persuading her to help them out. She dresses up like an 1880 Japanese ghost. She's left to be herself, and remembers she's supposed to scare others, but she's scared of the dark herself. The night is yet to begin, but she is already lost. As the games are about to start, Raku and Dira hold hands like two monkeys. Even monkeys would hold hands better than these two spineless maggots. Shu runs in and says he can't find his partner Cheeto. One of the ladies who's supposed to scare the kids shows up and says that she can't find Cheeto, and she forgot to give Cheeto batteries for her torchlight. This leaves this monkey no choice but to go and find his gorilla. He lets go of Dira and sprints into the woods in search of Cheeto. Cheeto, on the other hand, was counting sheep to keep herself calm. Even Gumi was scared to the bones, and she's holding on to Ruri so tight, Raku runs by them at that speed of light. Cheeto began to recall that she had been in a similar situation when she was a kid, and a guy came and saved her, just like Raku showed up to save her now. They walk back and get lost, but they have some quality time, like deciding to call their first names instead of calling their last names because it's becoming sus. When they got back, Raku had already exhausted all the time he had and couldn't hang out with Dira anymore. They're back to school, and Raku cannot wait to speak to Dira. He goes straight to her, but as he's about to touch her, Cheeto calls out to him. He answers the question and tells her to take the journal to the science room and not the music room again. Ruri asks if they're on first-name terms now, and the answer hits them like a bomb, and Rudy comments that Cheeto beat Dira to be on first-name terms. I meant to say Ruri. This is no jobless reincarnation. Gumi pops out of the class and asks for her lady, and Raku sends her on the right path to her master. Apparently, it's the gorilla birthday, and the half-brained girl didn't deem it fit to mention it to her Beansprout. To check it out though, Beansprout is actually a cute name. Ruri wastes no time in sending Dira off with Raku to get presents for the birthday party that Gumi just invited them to. He waits for Dira at a cafe and freaks out that it might be his first date with Dira. She shows up and arranges herself in front of the glass where Raku is seated. When she looks through it, she sees him, and she's embarrassed that he had to see that. Men, it just hit me. There's a promise here, a promise there, a cross key here, and a moon key there. Is everyone going around and finding partners between the age of 5-10? Ah! Y'all didn't drop the update. They sit in silence for a while before they finally set out to get a gift after they're done. They walk down a flight of stairs, and Dira asks if he had fun seeing that the whole shopping was yanked on him by Ruri. He said he had fun, and she took him to a spot as beautiful as her eyes, and she says it's their secret place from now on. This encourages Raku, and he opens up and asks if she was the one he made the promise to when he was a child. She nonchalantly just said, yes, she's the one. They begin to confess their love, and when it was like they were about to kiss, a call comes in, and it's Gumi asking them to appear in front of her no matter what it takes. They get to the gates that are golden, and everyone questions what her parents do to have such a huge mansion. They all stand outside, even an uninvited guest Shu, who says he's not a stranger and they can't kick him out. Cheeto shows up at the gate and drags only her man to the side. She tells him that he hasn't told anyone that her family is the leader of a gang. Raku solved that issue as he just casually strolled to the rest, and they all just take the information like a cup of tea and say her family is just like Raku's. They step inside and all the gangmen pop confetti and welcome her friends. Four Eyes Claude shows up and starts yapping about how great Raku's gift would be, and honestly I feel the housefly could have gotten a better gift. The ladies in Shu offered their gifts first. The gang members gave her bananas, tons of bananas. Claude the Four-Eye Man gave her a Maybach, and that's just overdoing it. The foolish housefly of a boyfriend gave her a gorilla doll. It didn't take the gang members 2 seconds to point guns at his face, hoping he's noting that their princess is an ugly pink gorilla from the Fruit of Revolution. She said she cherishes the gift, and they back down from sending his dead body to his family home. Cheeto and Raku have a brief time alone, and she asks if he still likes the girl he made a promise to 10 years ago. She, Cheeto, asked if he's ever heard the phrase Zosh of love, and he asked her where she heard that phrase from. He runs algorithms in his mind, because that phrase is from the day he made the promise to the girl 10 years ago. She tells him that she found her diary and it brought back so many things she forgot. She tells him how it happened in her diary and opens her hand with the milk key in it. He's conflicted because Dira also has a key. He narrated his story too. They're not freaking out as he holds up the amulet. You wonder why I'm calling it an amulet. Have you seen the thing? It's almost like an old relic. I can't call that a locket. She says that there's no chance he's the one she made the promise to, but when she fixes the key into the keyhole, she twists it and the key snapped in two with the other half stuck in the keyhole. She shrugs it off and disappears. This leaves Raku with a puzzle harder than Sudoku. He comes across Cheeto's dad, who makes issues even worse by first apologizing for yanking the responsibility of this relationship on him, and also drops the Moab, that they were good friends when they were little about 10 years ago. And that's when it hit. He met them both at the same place and possibly made the promise to both, but he only holds the memory of making a promise to one. The next day at school, pictures of the school trip they went to came out, and everyone picked 1 or 2 pictures that they liked. He picked a picture of Cheeto and also picked a picture of Dira, but he bumps into Dira, and she sees him holding a picture of Cheeto. I'm confused, and I know you are too. When Raku got him, he made a meal, and in the process, his dad came by and dropped new intel on the matter at hand, saying he took a picture that Raku forced him to take of a girl holding a key. The more it unravels, the more confusing it is, and it's annoying me. Oh, I forgot to tell you that the amulet has gotten into the hands of a locksmith, Shu's uncle, who also calls it an ancient relic. When Raku got to school, he met his loving girlfriend and told her about the locket, but she acts like she doesn't care about what happened to it. When they got to class, Four Eyes Claude the Spy X was already there, and now they have to put on a little show for him. But as soon as Raku touches Machito, she goes red hot. The act is on, but it's not as smooth as it should be. I can't wait to see the picture. There's still a couple of episodes before this season ends, and it gets even crazier from here on out. So comment best recap ever if you want more, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more anime recaps to be unfolded. Also, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on our daily updates.